Good morning, everyone. I want to say a little bit today about the development of the Theosophical objects. And the objects of the Theosophical Society, which is based in Adyar in India, are as follows at the moment: to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or colour. It's very, very important. That's the one that we should all be following or trying to follow to the best of our ability. The second is to encourage the study of comparative religion, philosophy, and science. And the third, to investigate unexplained laws of nature and the powers latent in man. And there's another branch of the Theosophical Society that's based in Pasadena in the USA. And this has the following objects, as stated in its constitution. 1, to diffuse among men a knowledge of the laws inherent in the universe. Second, to promulgate the knowledge of the essential unity of all that is, and to demonstrate that this unity is fundamental in nature. Third, to form an active brotherhood among men. 4, to study ancient and modern religion, science, and philosophy. And 5, to investigate the powers innate in man. So let's look at the development of the objects. And most of this I got from the internet. Not many of it is my own words, but at the time of the founding of the Theosophical Society in 1875 in New York, there was a single general statement of its objects, and that was, the objects of the society are to collect and diffuse a knowledge of the laws which govern the universe. That was all that was said in those days when it was founded. Someone came up with the idea, let's form a society, and for that reason. So that was all that it was at the beginning. But in 1878, 3 years later, there were 6 unnumbered objects, and these are rather complex. I always find that the language it's a bit wordy, but it was typical of the time, the Victorian times. So the first one says, the objects of the society are various. It influences its fellows to acquire an intimate knowledge of natural law, especially its occult manifestations. As the highest development, physically and spiritually on earth, of the creative cause, man should aim to solve the mystery of his being. He is the procreator of his species, physically. And having inherited the nature of the unknown but palpable cause of his own creation, man must possess in his inner psychical self this creative power in lesser degree. He should therefore study to develop his latent powers and inform himself respectively and respecting the laws of magnetism, electricity, and all other forms of force, whether the seen or unseen universes. The second says the society teaches and expects its fellows to personally exemplify the highest morality and religious aspiration, to oppose the materialism of science and every form of dogmatic theology, especially the Christian, which the chiefs of the society regard as particularly pernicious, which is the Christianity of the time, which was very, very dogmatic. To make known among Western nations the long suppressed facts about Oriental religious philosophies, their ethics, chronology, esotericism, symbolism, and to counteract as far as possible the efforts of missionaries to delude the so-called heathen and pagans as to the real origin and dogmas of Christianity, and the practical effects of the latter on public and private character in so-called civilized countries. So it wasn't against Christianity, but just about the way it was put forward at the time. And in some ways, it's the same now. But I think there's a lot wider understanding now than there was then. A lot more tolerance amongst most. Also, to disseminate a knowledge of the sublime teachings of that pure esoteric system of the archaic period, which are mirrored in the oldest Vedas and in the philosophy of Gautama Buddha, Zoroaster, and Confucius. Finally, and chiefly, to aid in the institution of a brotherhood of humanity, wherein all good and pure men of every race shall recognise each other as the equal effects upon this planet of one uncreate, universal, infinite, and everlasting cause. That's a very beautiful one. And so we're beginning to get more of an emphasis on brotherhood, on the universal brotherhood idea. So it goes a bit further forward now, because on December 17th, 1879, at the palace of His Highness the Maharaj of Vidyanagram in Benares, India, the General Council of the Society revised the bylaws, and the objects were drafted as follows. A, to keep alive in man his spiritual intuitions. Very important, rather than relying too much upon the intellect. B, to oppose and counteract, after the due investigation and proof of its irrational nature, bigotry in every form, whether as an intolerant religious sectarianism or belief in miracles or anything supernatural. In Theosophy, we don't believe in miracles. We believe it's all, things do happen, but they're all part of natural law. The natural laws haven't been discovered yet. They're not miracles. They're not things that, they're not supernatural. They're just natural laws that haven't been investigated and studied as yet. But as we go on, more and more of them do become revealed. And C is to promote a feeling of brotherhood among nations and assist in the international exchange of useful arts and products by advice, information, and cooperation with all worthy individuals and associations, provided, however, that no benefit or percentage shall be taken by the Society for its corporate services. So that's very important, because that's something that's not really been realised, to promote a feeling of brotherhood among nations. There have been many attempts, of course, to do this, but it's generally not worked. We still have wars and rumours of wars all the time. And D is to seek to obtain knowledge of all the laws of nature and aid in diffusing it, thus to encourage the study of those laws least understood by modern people, and so term the occult sciences. Popular superstition and folklore, however fantastical, when sifted, may lead to the discovery of long-lost but important secrets of nature. The Society, therefore, aims to pursue this line of inquiry in the hope to widen the field of scientific and philosophical observation. So even myths and legends have their basis in truth, and many of them were written at times when spiritual movements that weren't regarded as being orthodox were persecuted, and they have to hide the teachings in stories and myths. And a lot of them had really deep and spiritual meanings to them. They're very symbolic. E is to gather for the Society's library and put into written form correct information upon the various ancient philosophies, traditions, and legends, and as the Council should decide, if permissible, disseminate the same in such practical ways as the translation and publication of original works of value and extracts from and commentaries upon the same, or the oral instructions of persons learned in their respective departments. Very important. F is to promote in every practicable way, in countries where needed, the spread of non-sectarian Western education. G, finally and chiefly, to encourage and assist individual fellows in self-improvement, intellectual, moral, and spiritual. But no fellow shall put to his selfish use any knowledge communicated to him by any member of the first section, which are the masters of wisdom. Violation of this rule being punished by expulsion. And before any such knowledge can be imparted, the person shall bind himself by a solemn oath not to use it for selfish purposes, nor to reveal it except with the permission of the teacher. A lot of these ideas now seem to be antiquated, but they were very, very important at the time. So then the General Council met in February 1881 and again revamped the rules of the society, this time the 7 plans being condensed into 4. And the first was to form the nucleus of a universal brotherhood of humanity, the obvious philanthropic value of which must be beyond dispute, while the esoteric significance of a union formed on that plan is conceived by the founders for reasons derived from a study of Oriental philosophy to be of great importance. So now we can see it's becoming more and more towards what it is nowadays. And we're realizing the absolute essentiality and importance of this universal brotherhood of humanity. Because the reason it was founded was because the masters could see the way the world was going, becoming more dogmatic. There were more wars, and as I've said before, there were more wars and rumours of wars, and the masters wanted to do something about it. So they wanted a brotherhood of humanity, a real universal fraternity started. That's what they say. And that's the whole reason for the Theosophical Society coming into being, and all the teachings that help us to realise that this brotherhood of humanity. And the second is to study Aryan literature, religion and science, which the founders believed to contain certain valuable truths and philosophical views, of which the Western world knows nothing. Third, to vindicate the importance of this inquiry and correct misinterpretations with which it has been clouded. The fourth is to explore the hidden mysteries of nature and the latent powers of man, on which the founders believe that Oriental philosophy is in a position to throw light. So that was in 1881. In 1886, the objects were condensed to the following: to form the nucleus of a universal brotherhood of humanity, without distinction of race, creed, or colour. 2, to promote the study of Aryan and other Eastern literatures, religions, and sciences. And 3, a third object, pursued by a portion of the members of the society, is to investigate unexplained laws of nature and the psychical powers of man. So that's very much similar to what we have now. Then in 1890, the first and second objects were expanded, while the third was shortened. So the first was to form the nucleus of a universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or colour. So sex was added and also to caste as well was also added, because it's very important to understand that there's a big caste system in India which formed a division. But originally, everyone with whatever caste was able to attain enlightenment. It was their own particular path that they followed, whether they were a warrior or a merchant or a servant or a Brahmin. They all could reach enlightenment by following their own path. But then it became a hierarchical thing, with the Brahmins taking control and subjugating all the others, etc. And it went down the list. And the second was to promote and study the study of Aryan and other Eastern literatures, religions, philosophies, and sciences, and to demonstrate their importance to humanity. There you are again, you say, demonstrate their importance to humanity, not just study for the sake of studying them. Third, to investigate unexplained laws of nature and the psychic powers latent in man. Then in 1894, the second object was slightly amended. So the first became to form the nucleus of a universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or colour. Second, to promote the study of Aryan and other Eastern literatures, religions, philosophies, and sciences, and to demonstrate the importance of that study. Third, to investigate unexplained laws of nature and the psychic powers latent in man. In 1896, Theosophical Society Adyar made a last modification, giving the definitive form to its objects. The Theosophical Society in Pasadena made further changes until they reached their current form, which I said at the beginning. So the objects T.S. Adyar, again, this is a little bit wordy. The word brotherhood in the first object is used without reference to gender. This object aims at offering a space for people to come together and share their search for truth, regardless of any external differences. The practice of this object is a concrete recognition of humanity's common essential nature and origin. It encourages us to appreciate external differences as something that enriches our human experience, instead of being a source of intolerance and war. H.P. Blavatsky, co-founder of the Theosophical Society, wrote, "Social differentiations result of physical evolution and material environment, breed race hatreds and sectarian and social antipathies that are insurmountable if attacked from the outside. But since human nature is ever identical, all men are alike open to influences which centre upon the human heart and appeal to the human intuition. And as there is but one absolute truth, which is the soul and life of all human creeds, it is possible to effect a reciprocal alliance for the research and dissemination of that basic truth." And the commentary on the second object says, "For the research and dissemination of that basic truth, the second object of the Theosophical Society proposes a comparative study of three different avenues humanity has taken to the understanding of life, religion, philosophy, and science." The Society was thus the first to organise in modern times to promote interfaith activities worldwide and in a systematic way. One of its aims was to bring to the West the wisdom of the East, when non-Judeo-Christian religions were considered to be mere superstitions. Thanks to the work of the Theosophical Society, words like karma, yoga, and many others became known to the general public outside scholarly critics and scholarly circles. The Society was also the first to organise working towards to bridge the gap between science and spirituality in a time when they were regarded as absolutely incompatible. So it was the first organisation working to bridge this gap between science and spirituality, which is very interesting, in a time when they were regarded as absolutely incompatible. The third object encourages us to investigate what has sometimes been called the hidden side of life and of human beings. In the theosophical view, it is very important to learn about the deep purpose of life, the spiritual laws that guide our evolution, and to discover how to awaken to the spiritual potential that is inherent in every single one of us. This is the only sure foundation to peace on earth. Real harmony and cooperation cannot be attained merely through politics and social reform, though they may be necessary at times, but through the transformation of the human heart and mind. H.P. Blavatsky, examining the accomplishments of the Theosophical Society in its first 14 years, wrote, and this is what I said in my last talk, which is a very important talk. And it says, this is just a little bit of it, "The key to all our successes, as above enumerated, is in our recognition of the fact of the higher self, colourless, cosmopolitan, unsectarian, sexless, unworldly, altruistic, and the doing of our work on that basis. To the secularist, the agnostic, the scholastic scientist, such results would have been unattainable, nay, would have been unthinkable. Peace societies are utopian, because no amount of argument based upon exoteric considerations of social morals or expediency can turn the hearts of the rulers of nations away from selfish war and schemes of conquest. And I put that in the, that was the head of my last talk on Together We Are One, and so you could go back and look at that talk because it's very, very important in modern society. And so, well, finally, of course, we have the motto of the Theosophical Society. And the family motto was the family motto of the Maharaja of Benares. And it was Satyan Nasti Paro Dharma, which is a phrase that appears a few times in the Mahabharata, which is a Hindu spiritual work. So on December 14th, sorry, Colonel Olcott met with a number of scholars and pandits. And it was about this time that the Theosophical Society adopted this motto as its own, which was translated as, "There is no religion higher than truth. There is no religion higher than truth." So that's a brief synopsis of the way that the objects of the Theosophical Society developed over a long period of time, really. It came to be what they are now. And of course, I'll finish off now by just saying them as they are now. So at the moment, they are to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or colour, to encourage the study of comparative religion, philosophy, and science, to investigate unexplained laws of nature and the powers latent in man. And also nowadays we include woman, of course. So thank you very much for listening to this short talk on the development of the Theosophical objects. Most of the words were taken from the internet, not mine, apart from a very few interjections. So thank you very much. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Peace on earth and goodwill to all beings, to all of you. And we'll meet again very, very soon. Thank you.